Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to episode 21 of Stationeers. So quick recap, last episode we started to set up the beautiful control room, and this episode I'm going to continue that trend. So the first thing I want to do is to set up an APC to control atmospherics. So let's get that laid out. The first thing we want is an area power control. And the next thing I want to do is to make a transformer. Now, I do know I took quick inventory. I'm running a little low on gold. So let's get that rolling out on the line. So the transformer here is going to be the transformer small. This will prevent me from blowing out my cables. A transformer, the way these work, the small ones are good for small cables, the big ones are good for big cables. You have power coming in and you have power going out, and it modulates it, or not modulates it, it limits it. It's like a valve or something like that, I guess you could think of it. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know exactly how to explain it perfectly, but here we go. So the way to do this is, the first thing I want to do is eat my potato, because I don't work on an empty stomach very well. As you can see here, my atmospheric battery ran a little low overnight, but I think it's okay now. Let's grab the labelers here and label these appropriately. So this is going to be the Atmo area power control, and the, if I'm allowed to click, come on, Atmo transformer small. Alright, let's go grab my purple cables. And we are eventually going to run it like this. I'm going to run it down so that I have access to the data port of the battery at a later date. So I don't want to block that data port. I'm even... Ooh, you know what? I'm even going to run it lower than that. I have plans for that data port. So I really want to give fair access to it later. The idea is, first I'm going to set up the area power controller so that we're running our ammo off of the APC. Or APC, yeah, I guess APC, right? Area power, yeah, APC. And then I want to display all of the beautiful data that it involves. So, that Atmo battery data port needs to be free. Alright, so then the Atmo area power control leads to the transformer, and the transformer will eventually lead to all of the Atmo systems. So let's set that up right now. I really don't like running my cables in walls like this, because if they burn out, it becomes really challenging to find. But in this instance, I'm just not going to worry about it. Will it come back and bite me? I don't know. It might. Alright. So now we have all that set up. Let's flip these switches. I need to grab my labeler again. Let's set up this APC, this transformer to 4990. That is in watts. Anything higher, well, this only goes up to 5,000, but I want to step it down just a little bit. Flip that on, and now let's rewire some of the cables here. Oh, I did have a burnout because it had a feedback loop. And luckily the burnout was close. I hope. We'll have to see. Sometimes you can have multiple burnouts. But that's actually exactly why I am setting this up, is so I don't have these sort of blowouts. So let's replace this section. And if all's well, everything's powered on. And as you can see, it is all powered back on. These, of course, could be on, but there's nothing in those tanks, so I have chosen to keep them off. At least for now. The next thing I'm going to do is to throw a little battery in there. So let's get this purple small battery. Not purple small battery, but the Atmo battery, soon to be the Atmo battery, and toss that in there. And then I'm going to want my purple paint to appropriately color these the color that they should be. I've never actually tried to paint a battery. I'm curious about that. I don't know if they're paintable. The APC doesn't need a battery. The battery acts as a buffer. No. All right, you can't paint batteries. Yeah, I didn't think so, but you know, it doesn't hurt to try. So now at this point, the giant heavy red cable feeds all of the kit batteries. These two are unused. This one is partially used. I need to transfer more of the vital systems onto the green, but I'll do that later. And then, of course, this purple here, if I take out my tablet, I'll be able to see it should use around 800 watts. Yeah, 732. Perfect. And that is now all on a transformer. So this transformer, what it does is it makes sure that everything downstream does not exceed 4,990 watts, which the 5K watt amount would burn out our cables. I think I could have it at 500 watts, but I'd rather have it at 4,990 just to avoid problems. And that will prevent any of the sort of burnout that you saw before. So the next thing I want to do is to display data. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is to get a few LED displays. They're consoles. If I could type properly. Oh my god, typing apparently really, really hard. I want to display the current usage and the battery's current charge, maybe. I'll probably display two pieces of data, but I have to decide what those two pieces are. Definitely current usage will be a big one. So we'll work on current usage first. And this is a little bit more involved than some of the other projects I've had. Just to give you a gentle heads up. So I'll put two displays down here. Each battery can have two sets of data, but for now, we're not going to use the right one. So in order to display LED, alright, I do have purple though. Let's purple these first. That's probably the easiest part of this, this little project. Is it not letting me paint that? Oh yeah, maybe the LED displays. Well, I'll turn the text purple. How's that sound? As an alternative. Gotta eat my potatoes though. So what we're gonna need to do is to hook up the cable analyzer, because without a cable analyzer we really are not gonna know what's on our network here. And I'm gonna make sure the interface for the cable analyzer is facing out. If it's facing in, it will show through a wall. I don't want to see it. I want to pretend it's not there. But also, I'm probably going to have this point downwards because I'm going to hide all of the logic for this somewhere in the crawl space here. I don't want to see it. So, with that in mind, what I'll have to do is disassemble the wall or the window here a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. Because it is going to have to become a frame temporarily so it can support the logic involved. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm just going to do this the easiest way, partially just so that it's easy for you all to follow. There's no, you can always set everything up in IC housings and code it, and it takes a lot longer. Ultimately it's more efficient, sure, but maybe not time efficient. It's just power efficient. I'm sure I have steel sheets over there somewhere. I just didn't want to fish around for them forever. So what I'm doing now is creating some frames to support. Wow, these didn't even stack. To support the logic that I'm going to need. Some of the logic is going to be temporary, meaning that I will. Once I use the logic, I can remove it, and then some of the logic is going to be permanent. Alright, so let's go... Actually, I'm going to want another frame. But instead of making... Oh, I have a frame right here. None of this will show once I wall up the base. All of this logic that I'm laying out will be obscured. So, the first things first, this LED here, we want to bring its power and data over to the Atmo network. So I don't want to use up this wall here, because eventually I want another APC and transformer here for the vitals. So I'm going to hide everything below. And this is going to take up a lot of room. Meaning that I might have to clip cables and move things around. In fact, I'm going to start moving them right now. So what I'm going to do is have this corner piece go straight down. And then let's pick up the cable here. So the LEDs will need power and data. The power and data should come off of this purple line here. So let's go ahead and run that over like this. And this is why the colors are important, keeping all your systems sort of separate. If you combine them all, it's going to be a one power-hungry, cable burning out mess. Alright, so if we turn this little LED on, as you can see, it's just a happy little 0. It doesn't have anything to display. 0 is sort of the null. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to display either the amount of power that is in the battery or the current usage. Now, current usage would be data that we need to grab from this cable analyzer. So let's go ahead and set this cable analyzer to feed that data to this network. Which means just a little feedback like that. So all the data from analyzing the cable goes back into this purple network, which then eventually is accessible to this LED. But the LED is dumb. It doesn't, not to insult it, but it doesn't really, you can't program it with the data disk. So what we're gonna need is logic. So let's get some logic. So I'm gonna need one little logic memory, but not for what you think. The memory is going to allow me to set up the display type, because you can display on the LEDs, you can display percentages, you can display wattages, you can display just simple numbers. And let's go with input-output as well. I think I can do this with one input-output. But if I need to add more, and I can always add more. So let's go ahead and have a logic writer and a memory. Tie these into the same grid. So we're going to need our wire cutters. Well, it was correct the first time, and then I hit C. Little junction. Junction. Corner. Corner. So, the first thing I want to do is to label, because now I have two LEDs. I could just cut the wires to the right one, but this will be Atmo LED. Atmo power usage LED. Atmo battery LED. Alright. So now I can find it when I want to code it. So the input here is going to be the memory. The output here is going to be, as you can see, if you have too many objects on your network, it's a little challenging to find the right one. So the output will be the Atmo power usage LED, and I want to write color to it. So the input is memory. So, it's blue. It's white. Green. I don't know what purple is off the top of my head, but I'll find it eventually. Red. Yellow. White again? Nothing? Come on now. You're killing me. That's kind of a pink. Alright, it's 11. Cool. Let's turn this off. And then output to the battery LED. Turn that on. And this will also be... Hang on. Input memory, output battery. Set to color. Alright, so now both of my little LEDs will have purple data to match the fact that it's the purple battery. Perfect. Then the next thing I want is to bring this memory back down to 0. So if you're wondering how this works, the LEDs have a chip inside. This isn't literal, I'm just sort of trying to explain it. That it has a color setting that you can change through the writers here. So I use the writer here to write 11 to its color, and that makes it purple. And I don't know, there's probably something like 16 colors or something like that for your little LEDs, but it's a way to set it up to make it look nice. I can even close my APC here. If I wanted to cut power to my Atmo, all I'd have to do is turn off the transformer. So I can take the Atmo area power controller and close it, which I think makes it a little bit nicer. Looks nicer. Okay. So now I have the modes, the colors set up. Now I need to set up the mode. So the input, let me get my screwdriver again, is still going to be memory. The output is going to, let's go back to the power usage LED, and it's going to be mode. So right now the mode is just regular digits. Now it's percentages. And now it's wattages. Perfect. Turn this logic writer off, and then set the output to the battery, and this should be wattages as well, once I do this correctly. Memory, Atmo, mode, wattages. Alright, beautiful. So the last thing, now that these are set up for wattages, I'm going to need to take this logic writer and find the cable analyzer. Oh, you know what? I'm going to need a reader for this, aren't I? Yeah. Let's see. Reader. And I should eventually label this once I'm done. So the input is going to be my cable analyzer, which I really ought to name... Oh, power low. What I really ought to name is... There it is. And then we're going to read from the cable analyzer power required. So right now we're using 842 watts. But speaking of watts, let's go ahead and switch my medium battery with this nuclear one, so I don't have power warnings anymore. And some of that wattages is actually from these LEDs, funny enough. So if I turn this one off, 792, for instance. So keeping this data on, yeah. So now we have it read, and then we want to write it. This memory is no longer needed for this project. I'm just going to slap the memory down here. So each of these are going to have a writer and a reader, so let's build one more logic I/O. Again, this is not the most power efficient way of doing it, it's just the simplest. The most power efficient would be a circuit, integrated circuit, much like I did the solar logic over here. But I am not fluent in MIPS, and I don't want to add extra complexity to my videos if I can avoid it. So logic writer. MIPS is the a machine language that the that it all uses. All right, corner down. Hook that up. All right, so now this input is going to be, let's grab my labeler because this is going to be getting confusing. So my logic reader is going to be power required logic reader and power required logic writer. Neat. So this is already on, and as I turn this on, again, it will increase the amount of power that I need. That's just the way it works. All right, let me put my labeler away. Input is going to be the power required logic reader. Output will be... I gotta find that Atmo battery usage, and it's going to be setting. So now I look, I require 852 watts to run my Atmo. Just to make sure that that is an accurate number, let's add some more monitors here. And look at that. 952. Yes, it goes up appropriately. It's 50 watts for each monitor. Alright, so that one is done. Done. But what I think I'm going to do is actually compress it a little bit, because I need to do the other one too, which is 2 more logic I/O, and I want to have it take up the least amount of space. So let me crank out 2 more logic I/O. Because real estate, like laying things out compactly, is, in my opinion, very, very important. If you take up too much room, you'll have this weird, large, expansive base that you have to run around really far to like find everything. I don't know. It just doesn't work all that well. Okay, so let's compress this now. Now that we've set this up, you know, we're breaking it back down. So the best way to do this is this: flip these upside down like that. It really should be reader and then writer. And then let me get my snips. Oops. No, come back, cable coil. Because this is the same network, so it can be upside down like this, no problem. It can't connect there because there's a pipe there. That's okay. We'll have it be a junction like this, and let's combine our purple cables. Grab the other IOs. And the reason why that's still reading correctly, or quote-unquote correctly, is it hasn't had any more input. So as you can see here, I turned on a monitor and it still reads as 852. That's just because that's what it was set to last, but it's obviously wrong. Alright, so now we have the readers and writers stacked, which is going to save us a little bit of space here. So we're putting everything into a much smaller area. And the reason I'm doing this is you have to keep in mind, this is just for the purple battery. I also have green and these 2 other undecided colors. So I'm trying to make it so that we can fit everything eventually. And rather than have to rewire everything else later because I stole all the space, it's good to just do it right the first time. I just wanted to demo how to do it, because now I'm going to fly through this one. So what we're going to have is, this will be power required. I'm just going to do rec logic reader. I'll even simplify this to LR. Power avail logic reader. Power avail logic writer. Power rec logic writer. Alright. Grab my little tool, And of course, the thing is, all of this could be done in one little IC housing. But, you know, whatever. So the inputs for these readers are going to be the same. It's going to be the cable. And, you know what, actually, it occurs to me that is not labeled either. Not that it really needs to be. There really only ought to be one cable analyzer for the entire Atmo. There's no need to have two. But let's label it anyway. So here it is. Atmo cable analyzer. And then for the input here, Atmo cable analyzer. The variable for the power required should be power required, and the variable for the power available should be power potential, I believe. Let's flick these on. Oh, no. Potential is not right. This should be... Actually, you know what? The input for this should be the Atmo battery. And the Atmo battery here is currently not on the network. So we need to add this to the network, because that's actually where the cable analyzer has no idea how much power the battery has. That's not something it can read. The potential was just how much power is potentially available to the network, which is basically just what is my transformer set at, which is not a very useful data point. Okay, so now the battery's data port is hooked up to the network, so that we can read from it. So this input should be the Atmo, it's alphabetical. So the Atmo battery, and the variable here is charge. So charge is how many megawatts is in it. It's fully charged, so there it is. Now, for this is the power available. So let's go for power avail logic reader. Output will be to the Atmo battery LED and setting, and there we go, 3.6 megawatts, and that is the max capacity of these batteries. And then the output here will be the Atmo power usage set to setting, and the input here will be power required logic reader. Done. And now you can see I need 872, and just to make sure that's a live number and not just like the last read, 922, and we can turn all these on. These filters are just a pass-through at the moment. They're basically micro pumps. Turn everything on, and we should be up in the wattages. So 1.2 kilowatts. As long as that's below 4.9 kilowatts, we don't have a brownout happening. Alright, so there we go. Purple text, proper data. This is telling me what the battery has and what I'm currently using. And you can do the math. If power was cut right now, you know, how long that this will keep up. Alright, so the next little project I want to do is to put the elevators on the vitals and then remove this APC here. So the way to put the elevators on the vitals, let's color these purple cables green. So I'm just going to snip this real quick. So I have a green cable. So what I want to do here is remove this APC, because this APC is, I want all of my APCs centralized in my power control. So that means that the power input for the IC housing, the power input for the batch writer, and the other batch writer all need to be on green. So I'm going to do a very crude hack job right now. which is going to screw up my solar logic for a bit until I have this fixed. But the benefit of doing it this way is that once it is done, the APC for the vitals is in my power control and not up here on the top of this giant solar array, which is not where you'd want it. So now all these green power inputs for all of the logic for the solar power panels are going to go straight into this green vitals network. And then I have to fix the data network that is red. And I'm not going to recolor that. This data network is just for data. And it's going to be isolated once I'm done. So put actually, we don't even really need a junction in there, but I'll fix that later. This should be a corner. Like that. So now all these batch writers now have their proper power. One of the batch writers is pissed, but the other batch writers are pissed. Let's clean up the cabling for the batch writers. So I'm going to put my green cables down because we're going to be using red ones now. So this is going to be a junction. This is going to be a corner. Another junction. A three-way corner. And a junction. Alright. And then it's blinking because I need to bridge the data, because the data on this side over here does not connect to the data on over here. And to bridge it is really easy. I just need to add a little corner piece that feeds to the other side. Like this. Done. Now, we have green. The solar tracking, of course, it's nighttime, so it's not going to track anymore. Not correctly. But, alright, so the next project was to put the elevators on vitals. So what I did just now is to absolutely cut out this APC. This APC has no purpose anymore. In fact, I will cut this cable up here and just have this be a straight through, as it is no longer needed. And let's go ahead and combine green. There we go. So, I'm going to grab the battery out of this thing so that we can use the battery somewhere else and just remove this APC because it literally has no purpose anymore. I caught the APC. And then we're going to want the APC here, and we're going to eventually turn it green. Because right now, the vitals does not have an APC. The vitals are just running off of this kit battery. Which means if the vitals required more than 5 kilowatts, it would burn out. And that would be bad. Needless to say, that would be very bad. I don't want that kind of burnout. So, the last thing I want to do is to put all of the elevators on the vital system, which is really, really simple to do. All I got to do is basically paint over this cable. So right now, actually the first thing I need to do is to take the vitals off of the data network that they were on. So now, if I grab my tablet, you will see that the power required for this data network is, it says 20, but it's wrong. The batch writer and the two batch writers are powered elsewhere. So this green network, which is cable network 911, is my vitals network. That's kind of funny. 911 is the emergency number in America. Requires 70 watts. Eventually it will require a little bit more because all the elevators need to be on it. And then this data network does not need power whatsoever. It just contains data. And the proof of that will be right now this red data network that has all the solar power logic on it. Once the sun comes up at the next tomorrow, you'll see that these solar power panels will spring into action. Alright, so let's go ahead, let's stop getting sidetracked and get these elevators. Oof, I just colored everything back. Okay, there we go. Get these elevators on the vitals. And the reason to put the elevators on the vitals is, of course, if you can't access anything but your ground floor during an emergency, that's not a good thing. So I'm just painting over the red cables because these are becoming green because they're going on the vitals. Put a little corner in here. Come on. Don't be fussy. And to connect these up, that's really simple. I just need two straight cables here. There we go. And now my elevators are on the vitals. Proof of this would be if I grab my tablet and my actual power for the vitals network went up a little bit. The cable network for vitals changed because I tinkered with it. So unfortunately, it is no longer that iconic 911. But the proof of this working would be that when I walk over here, the elevators have power. And they're drawing their power from the vitals network now. So I'm actually sort of curious. I haven't checked this yet. If when you're using the elevator, it draws more power. So let's see if I can't time this. Nope. The elevator shaft actually does not draw more power when it is in motion. So, oh well, whatever. I mean, I don't really care. That's cheaper for me. So the next thing I'm going to do next episode is to hook up LED usages for green over here using the same sort of logic system. Unless, of course, you all give me enough comments to say use IC housing. I could do that only if you want it. It adds complexity, which might not be all that necessary because I have plenty of power. But here you go. You can see this in action where my power actual, my battery storage, is down from 3.6 to 2.8. Now, if there was ever a case where we used so much power, let's say we used 4 kilowatts of power, we might want to add 2 batteries, but that's really easy to do. All I have to do is to hook up 1 more battery to the Atmos system, and it would double the storage. So if you have any tips, tricks, feedback for me about this episode or about what I should tackle next episode, just let me know. I'd be happy to hear it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll catch you all later. Thank you so much for watching. Adios.